The Galactic Confederation's most sophisticated predictive algorithms had failed spectacularly. Admiral Zextal stood at the command center of the flagship Eternal Vision, his crystalline form reflecting the holographic displays surrounding him. The humans had achieved faster-than-light travel nearly 50 years ahead of schedule. "Impossible," muttered Chief Analyst Vera, her tentacles writhing in agitation as she reviewed the data for the 100th time. Their technological progression showed no indicators of this breakthrough. "We've been monitoring them for centuries." The evidence was undeniable. A human vessel had appeared at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system, its crude but effective warp drive signature clear as starlight. The Confederation's carefully planned first contact protocols, scheduled for implementation in 2127, were now useless. Humanity had forced their hand. "What do we know about their ship?" Admiral Zextal's crystalline voice resonated through the command center. Vera projected a detailed scan. "It's inelegant, sir. They've essentially brute-forced their way through space-time. By our standards, it's practically held together with adhesive strips and optimism. But it works. Somehow, it works." The Admiral's crystalline structure shifted, expressing what in his species passed for amusement, typical of everything we've observed about them. Humans have always favored effectiveness over elegance. The Confederation had watched Earth for millennia, cataloging humanity's chaotic development. Where other species progressed in logical, predictable patterns, humans seemed to leap forward in random bursts of innovation, often solving complex problems with surprisingly simple solutions. "Sir," Vera interrupted his thoughts, "they're broadcasting on all frequencies. Well, you should hear this yourself." The human transmission filled the command center. "To any sentient species receiving this message, hello. We know you're out there. We've picked up traces of your observation posts in our solar system. We figured we'd save you some time and come say hi ourselves. We bring greetings from Earth and a lot of questions. Also, we brought coffee. We found it's usually a good way to start a conversation." The command center fell silent. In all the Confederation's history of first contacts, no species had ever announced themselves with such casual informality, and none had ever detected their observation posts. They knew we were watching them. Zextal's crystalline surface rippled with concern. "For how long?" "Analyzing their historical data now, sir," Vera reported. "It seems they detected our presence centuries ago. They simply chose not to acknowledge it until they could meet us on more equal terms." The implications were staggering. Humans had carried on their development, knowing they were being observed, yet showing no sign of this knowledge. They had maintained this deception across generations, across political boundaries, across their entire global civilization. "Sir," First Contact Specialist Krell joined the conversation, his feathered crest rising with excitement. "I've been studying their vessel's design. It's fascinating. They've incorporated elements that seem specifically designed to make us comfortable. The airlock systems are compatible with at least 12 different known atmospheric requirements. They've included universal mathematical symbols in their external markings. Even their ship's shape avoids any aggressive angles that might trigger defensive responses in various species. You're saying they designed their first faster-than-light vessel, not just for exploration, but specifically for first contact." Zextal's crystalline form pulsed with disbelief. "Yes, sir. They'd been preparing for this meeting as carefully as we have. Just in their own way." Admiral Zextal considered his options. The Confederation's first contact protocols were clear. Emerging species were to be approached carefully, with controlled information released to prevent cultural shock. But humans had rewritten the rules of the game. They had watched their watchers, prepared in secret, and now arrived with coffee. Send the response, he decided. Accept their invitation for contact. But first, analyze this coffee. I want to know what kind of species uses a beverage as a diplomatic tool. As the crew rushed to comply, Zextal reviewed everything he thought he knew about humans. They had seemed so predictable in their unpredictability. so consistent in their inconsistency. Now he wondered if perhaps they had been the ones doing the real observation all along. The human ship maintained its position, patient yet present, like a neighbor waiting politely at the door. Their next transmission was even more surprising. "We're picking up some unusual energy readings from your engines. If you're having trouble with your quantum field alignment, we might be able to help. We had similar issues during our early tests." Vera checked the engine diagnostics, her tentacles freezing in shock. "Sir, they're right. How could they possibly?" "Because," Zextel realized, "they solved the same problem differently. Prepare for contact. Something tells me this is going to be a very interesting conversation." The diplomatic chambers aboard the Eternal Vision had never hosted a more unusual meeting. Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Horizon sat comfortably across from Admiral Zextel, seemingly unperturbed by his crystalline form. She poured a dark liquid from a thermal container into 2 specially designed cups. "Coffee," she explained, "has been bringing humans together for centuries. We figured it might work across species too." She smiled at the analysis drone hovering near her cup. "Your scientists can confirm it's perfectly safe for your biochemistry. We did our homework." Zextel's surface rippled in what humans would soon learn was amazement. The liquid was indeed compatible with his species' mineral-based biology. More surprisingly, it contained compounds that would enhance his neural conductivity. Somehow, humans had researched and adapted their diplomatic gesture specifically for his kind. "You continue to surprise us, Captain Chen," Zextal admitted. "Our models suggested your species was at least 5 decades away from achieving faster-than-light travel." Sarah's eyes twinkled. "We've learned that limitation often breeds innovation. When we discovered your observation posts, we realized we weren't alone. That changed everything. Every scientific breakthrough, every technological advancement had new context. We weren't just reaching for the stars anymore. We were reaching for you." The meeting was interrupted by an urgent communication. A Confederation research vessel had encountered a spatial anomaly in a nearby system. Their engines were failing, and the ship was being pulled into a gravitational singularity. "Let us help," Sarah offered immediately. "The Horizon's engines might be crude by your standards, but they're extremely adaptable." Zextel hesitated. Confederation protocol strictly limited technology sharing with emerging species. But as he watched Sarah quickly sketch out a rescue plan on her datapad, he realized humans had already developed their own solutions to problems the Confederation had thought beyond them. The rescue operation revealed more surprises. The Horizon's crew worked seamlessly with the Confederation's rescue team, adapting their methods on the fly. Where Confederation procedures called for careful calculation and precision, humans added intuitive leaps and creative improvisation. "They're using their warp field to create a gravitational counterpulse," Vera reported, her tentacles dancing with excitement. "It's completely unorthodox, but it's working." The research vessel was saved, but the real revelation came during the debriefing. The human engineers had already identified potential improvements to their method, sketching out modifications even as they celebrated the rescue's success. "You see failure as an opportunity," Krell observed, watching the humans collaborate with Confederation engineers. "Where we seek to eliminate error, you embrace it as a teacher." Sarah nodded. "Some of our greatest discoveries came from mistakes. We learned early that being wrong can sometimes lead to being right in ways we never expected." Over the following days, more human ships arrived, each one different from the last. While the Confederation valued standardization, humans had built vessels that reflected their diversity. Each ship represented a different approach to faster-than-light travel, a different solution to the same problem. "But how do you maintain efficiency without standardization?" Vera asked during a technical exchange. "How do you ensure reliability?" "We don't always," admitted Dr. James Rodriguez, the Horizon's chief engineer. "But what we lose in efficiency, we gain in adaptability. Every different approach teaches us something new. Sometimes the wrong way to do something turns out to be exactly right for a situation we never anticipated." The Confederation scientists were particularly puzzled by the human practice of brainstorming, gathering people to propose solutions without immediate criticism or evaluation. It seemed chaotic, inefficient, even potentially dangerous. Yet they couldn't deny the results. During one such session, a young human engineer suggested using quantum entanglement not just for communication, but for emotional resonance, a concept that seemed absurd until she demonstrated a prototype that allowed different species to share emotional states directly. "But why?" asked a Confederation scientist. "What practical purpose does emotional sharing serve?" "Understanding," Sarah replied simply. "We've learned that the hardest barriers to break aren't technological. They're psychological. When we can feel what another being feels, even for a moment, everything changes." Zextel found himself reevaluating everything the Confederation thought they knew about technological progress. Humans didn't follow the expected path not because they couldn't, but because they saw paths no one else had imagined. "We've been watching your species for centuries," he told Sarah during another coffee session, "but I'm beginning to think we never really saw you at all." "That's okay," she smiled. "We're still figuring ourselves out too. Maybe that's our real strength. We never stop looking for new ways to grow, new ways to connect, new ways to be wrong about what's possible." The crisis began with a whisper. Deep space sensors detected an anomaly spreading through the galaxy, disrupting the quantum fields that made faster-than-light travel possible. The Confederation's vast network of worlds faced isolation as their sophisticated drives began to fail. In the emergency council chamber aboard the Eternal Vision, representatives from 30 species debated solutions while watching real-time projections of the spreading disruption. Admiral Zextal noticed that the human delegation, led by Captain Chen, seemed unusually calm. "You don't appear concerned," he observed. Sarah Chen smiled, but it wasn't the carefree expression he'd grown accustomed to. This was the smile of someone who had seen a path others had missed. "We're worried," she admitted, "but we're also used to working with limited resources. When you can't go through a problem, you learn to go around it." The human delegation presented their analysis, while the Confederation scientists had focused on the quantum disruption itself. Humans had been studying its patterns. Dr. Rodriguez pulled up a holographic display that mapped the anomaly's spread against various cosmic phenomena. "It's not random," he explained. "The disruption follows paths of least resistance through spacetime, like water flowing downhill. And like water, it can be channeled." Vera finished, her tentacles rippling with sudden understanding. But the calculations required to predict and manipulate such flows would be enormous. Sarah's smile widened. "Good thing we brought our quantum computers. They're not as elegant as yours, but they're really good at handling chaos." The human approach was unprecedented. Instead of trying to stop or counteract the disruption, they proposed using it. Their ships, with their crude but adaptable engines, could ride the quantum disturbances like surfers on waves. "It's not just about survival," Sarah explained. "These disruptions are showing us something new about how space-time works. We might be able to use this to develop entirely new ways of traveling between stars." The Confederation Council was skeptical. The humans' plan seemed reckless, relying too heavily on intuition and untested theories. But as more ships reported drive failures, they ran out of alternatives. "How did you even think of this approach?" Krell asked as human and alien engineers worked to modify a Confederation vessel. "We have a long history of learning from disasters," Dr. Rodriguez explained, making adjustments to the ship's quantum matrix. "Earthquakes taught us about building foundations. Storms taught us about aerodynamics. Even our worst moments became teachers." The first test nearly ended in disaster. The modified ship shuddered as it encountered the quantum disruption, its systems screaming warnings. But instead of fighting the anomaly, the human pilots let their vessel move with it, adjusting their course with tiny corrections that seemed to anticipate the disruption's flow. "It's like riding a river," the human pilot explained later. "You don't fight the current, you use it." More ships were modified, combining Confederation precision with human adaptability. What started as an emergency measure became a revolution in space travel. Ships now moved through space in ways neither civilization had imagined possible. But the greatest discovery came from an unexpected quarter. A young human xenobiologist noticed that the patterns of the quantum disruption resembled neural pathways. Working with Confederation scientists, she developed a radical theory. What they were experiencing wasn't a natural phenomenon, but a form of communication. Something is trying to talk to us, she explained to the council. We just couldn't recognize it because it's using space-time itself as a medium. The revelation changed everything. The crisis wasn't a threat to be overcome, but a first contact scenario unlike anything either civilization had encountered. Human intuition and Confederation analysis worked together to decode the spatial messages. We've been so focused on our own ways of communication, Sarah mused during a late-night strategy session. Radio waves, quantum entanglement, even thought transmission. But out there, something is trying to have a conversation by reshaping the fabric of space itself. Admiral Zextel's crystalline form shimmered with what humans now recognized as deep thought. Perhaps this is why your species evolved as it did. Your chaos, your adaptability, your willingness to embrace the impossible. These aren't flaws in your development. They're exactly what we needed to recognize this moment. As human and Confederation ships learned to surf the quantum currents together, Sarah reflected on how crisis had forged an understanding that peaceful first contact hadn't achieved. In facing a common challenge, both civilizations had discovered strengths in each other they hadn't known to look for. Sometimes, she told Zextel, the universe has to shake us up a little to show us what we're capable of together. As the joint human Confederation fleet navigated the quantum currents, attempting to establish communication with the space-time entity, they encountered something unexpected. The entity wasn't just trying to communicate, it was lonely. The realization came through a combination of Confederation quantum analysis and human emotional intuition. The patterns. Dr. Maya Patel, the human xenobiologist, explained to the assembled council. They're not just messages. They're reaching out, seeking connection. Like ripples in a cosmic pond, hoping someone will notice. The Confederation representatives struggled with this concept. Their civilizations had evolved through logical progression, each step building on the last. The idea of an entity powerful enough to manipulate space-time, yet seeking emotional connection, seemed paradoxical. You're anthropomorphizing, accused one of the council members, projecting human emotions onto a cosmic phenomenon. Maybe, Sarah Chen responded. But consider this. What if emotion isn't a weakness? What if it's a fundamental force of the universe, as basic as gravity or electromagnetism? We humans have always known that consciousness and feeling aren't flaws in the system. They're features. The breakthrough came during an attempted communication session. While Confederation ships maintained their precise positions in the quantum current, the human vessels did something unprecedented. They began to dance. Moving in patterns that matched their crew's emotional states, they created ripples in space-time that resonated with the entity's own frequencies. What are you doing? Admiral Zextel demanded as he watched the human ships weave through space in seemingly chaotic patterns. We're showing it that we feel too, Sarah explained. That we understand loneliness, joy, curiosity. We're not just sending messages, we're sharing experiences. The entity responded. The quantum disruptions change, becoming more harmonious, more structured. The human's emotional vocabulary had given it a new way to express itself. Dr. Rodriguez worked with Confederation engineers to develop what they called an empathy drive, a modification to their quantum engines that could translate emotional states into space-time fluctuations and back again. It was crude, inefficient, and completely revolutionary. Your species continues to confound our understanding, Vera admitted to Sarah during a break in the communications. You took our most advanced technology and made it more primitive, yet somehow more effective. Not primitive, Sarah corrected. Personal. There's a difference between complexity and sophistication. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most profound. The entity they discovered was one of many cosmic intelligences that existed in the spaces between conventional matter and energy. They had watched the development of biological life with curiosity, but had never found a way to bridge the gap between their mode of existence and that of physical beings. They couldn't talk to us, Maya explained, because we were looking for complexity when we should have been looking for connection. All our advanced technology, and what they really needed was someone who understood what it meant to reach out and say, "Hello, you're not alone." The implications were staggering. Humanity's emotional intelligence, long considered a quirk of their evolution, proved to be a key to understanding a whole new level of cosmic existence. Their capacity for empathy, their ability to form connections across boundaries of species and even physical form, wasn't a developmental holdover. It was an advanced adaptation they had achieved before mastering space travel. "We've been measuring progress wrong," Krell realized. "We thought technological advancement was linear. That emotional development was secondary to logical progression. But you humans, you developed emotional intelligence alongside your technology, never seeing them as separate paths. The Confederation's entire understanding of species development had to be reevaluated. Humans hadn't emerged into an advanced galaxy. They had developed in exactly the way needed to help bridge the gap between different forms of consciousness. Your species' apparent contradictions," Admiral Zextel told Sarah, "your emotional depth alongside your technological innovation, your ability to be both logical and intuitive, your capacity to form bonds across any divide. These aren't weaknesses or evolutionary accidents. They're sophisticated adaptations we didn't recognize because we were looking for advancement in the wrong places." As human and Confederation ships worked together to establish regular communication with the cosmic entities, Sarah reflected on how far they'd come. "Maybe this is why we developed the way we did," she mused. "Not to reach the stars first, but to be ready when we got here. To remind everyone that the universe isn't just a place of physics and mathematics. It's also a place of consciousness and connection." 1 year after first contact, the Eternal Vision hosted an unprecedented gathering. Representatives from the Confederation, human delegations, and newly discovered cosmic entities, manifesting through specially designed quantum interfaces, met to discuss the future of galactic civilization. The meeting room hummed with multiple forms of communication: verbal, digital, quantum, and emotional. Admiral Zextel stood before the assembled beings, his crystalline form refracting light in patterns that expressed deep meaning to those who had learned to read such things. "We gather here today to acknowledge a fundamental shift in our understanding of the universe and our place within it." The quantum interfaces pulsed with patterns that the humans had dubbed star songs, the cosmic entity's primary form of communication. Thanks to the empathy drives, everyone present could feel the mixture of curiosity, joy, and anticipation emanating from these ancient consciousness. Sarah Chen, now serving as Earth's primary ambassador, sat beside a shimmering quantum field that contained the essence of a being they called Starweaver. Through their year of communication, humans had discovered that each cosmic entity had distinct personalities and preferences, much like biological beings. "When we first detected human ships approaching our observation posts," Zextel continued, "we thought we understood what was happening. An emerging species had developed faster than light travel ahead of schedule. A statistical anomaly, nothing more. We could not have been more wrong." The Admiral's surface rippled with what everyone now recognized as amusement. Humans didn't just develop technology. They developed in ways we had never imagined possible. They showed us that progress isn't a straight line, that civilization can advance in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Dr. Maya Patel presented the findings from their year of collaborative research. The integration of human emotional intelligence with Confederation technology had opened up entirely new fields of study. The cosmic entities had shared knowledge that revolutionized their understanding of space, time, and consciousness itself. But perhaps most importantly, Maya explained, We've learned that diversity isn't just about different species or different forms of life. It's about different ways of being, different ways of thinking, different ways of connecting. Every approach, every perspective, adds something unique to our understanding. The cosmic entities shared their own revelations. Through the quantum interfaces, they expressed how human emotion had given them new ways to experience existence. They had watched countless species evolve, but humans were the first to show them that feelings could bridge the gap between matter and energy, between physical and quantum states of being. We used to think emotions were inefficient, Vera admitted during her presentation. Now we understand they're a form of quantum processing, a way of computing possibilities and relationships that our most advanced AI systems can't match. Humans don't just feel emotions, they process reality through them. The gathering marked the beginning of a new era of galactic cooperation. The Confederation's logical precision, combined with human adaptability and emotional intelligence, all enhanced by the cosmic entity's quantum awareness. Together, they began developing technologies and methods that none of them could have achieved alone. Your species renamed our observation posts, Zextal noted to Sarah during a break in the proceedings. You call them welcome stations now. Sarah smiled. Because that's what they've become. Places where different forms of life and consciousness can meet, learn, and grow together. Besides, she added with a characteristic human wink, it sounds friendlier than surveillance outpost. The cosmic entity Starweaver pulsed with what they had all come to recognize as laughter, a concept it had learned from humans and found endlessly fascinating. Through the quantum interface, it shared its perspective. In all its eons of existence, it had never encountered beings who could make the unknown feel like home. As the gathering concluded, Admiral Zextal made one final observation. We thought we were watching humans develop, he said, but perhaps they were helping us develop too. They reminded us that progress isn't just about what we can build or discover. It's about how we connect, how we understand, how we grow together. The quantum interfaces brightened with agreement, sending ripples of warmth through the emotional spectrum. Humans hadn't just joined galactic civilization. They had transformed it, making it richer, deeper, more connected than ever before. Sarah looked out at the assembled beings, crystalline, organic, quantum, and everything in between. We never really know what we're capable of until we try, she said. And we never really understand ourselves until we see ourselves through each other's eyes, or quantum fields, or crystalline matrices, or whatever sense organs we happen to have. The gathering ended not with formal ceremonies, but with what humans called a celebration, a chaotic, joyful mixture of different forms of expression and connection. The cosmic entities created quantum light shows, the Confederation members shared crystalline harmonics, and humans taught everyone their music and dances. In that moment, watching species and consciousness types interacting in ways that would have seemed impossible a year ago, everyone understood. The universe wasn't just stranger than they had imagined, it was more wonderful too. And somehow, humanity's unique blend of chaos and connection had helped them all see it.